Holy crap. It's like every time I turn on the bloody camera, helicopter. God, these things are a pain in the ass where I live. But anyway, I just got back from a road trip to a buddy's place, and it's pretty awesome. Guy grew up basically same neighborhood as me, doing all the exact same shit, and guided and cowboying, and has a man cave that anybody would drool like a babbling idiot after being in it for a bit. Just an amazing collection of memories he's got on the wall in there. And looking at some huge whitetails, and whitetail he's got at his property in the Kootenays. It reminded me of my first whitetail ever, and it's a good story, so I figured I'd share this one with everybody. It's funny, with all my hunt stories, like I said before, I forget about so many of them until I sit down and start BSing with people around a fire or a table over a beer and talk hunting, and then they all start flooding back. It's like, oh my God, I remember that story. There's so many of them. But tell you what, so years ago, now keep in mind, a lot of you people out there watching my shit here are whitetail hunters, and a lot of the points that I'm going to share about the whitetail hunting is going to be obvious no-brainers to you guys. But take note, I grew up on the west coast of British Columbia on an island, and I grew up hunting deer in those thicker than hell, choked up rainforests, coastal rainforests, right? I'm sinking in snow here. I did a lot of mule deer hunting, but classically I hunt thick bush and timber and mountains, no matter what it is I've been hunting all my life and guiding in. So anyway, we're guiding up north for a few months. And my guide partner, Mark, he's like, hey, when you come down to Mom and Dad's in Alberta in November, we'll get a big whitetail. I'm like, okay. It's not hard at all, because as an Albertan resident, they just got to get some kind of a guide permit and a company to hunt permit. I don't know the official name. Somebody's going to comment with it, I'm certain. And you go get your license with them, and you go hunt with them. But we were hunting off of my friend's property and some of his other family's properties, and this particular deer hunt was about 2 hours east of Edmonton. Okay, it's like, so same level north or south on the province, is same level north or south as Edmonton, just a couple hours east. I think it was Tofield or Riley. Anyway, and Mark kept saying, I'm going to get you a big one. And there's no doubt, I already knew I was going to get a big one because it was my first time. And if you all know, whether it's fishing or hunting, first timers get a monster probably 99% of the time, and I know this. So in my mind, I'm like, not a doubt about it, I'm gonna get a big one. So off we go. And I'm used to either hunting remote middle of nowhere, or I'm used to hunting in thick, jungle on the coast, not farm fields with no cover and houses and a highway in sight. It's kind of weird. So we're bombing around for the day and checking out different areas. And he's talking to family, extended family, and their farms and stuff. And we got up first light in the morning. We head over to this one place, and he walks with me. We walk out to the corner of this fence, okay, like way across this quarter section. And he says, okay, sit here and don't move. And I'm looking around. I'm like, huh? Because I'm looking in the distance, and all you can see forever, and all there is just slowly rolling hills and round bales everywhere. And then the odd farmhouse. The nearest farmhouse to me was probably, I don't know, quarter mile. And then way off in the distance, like maybe a mile in the distance, I could see a busy highway heading east. And very, very little cover. Like just along the fence, the typical barbed wire fence, it was just like scrubby stuff, maybe 5 foot deep, and maybe 8 foot wide on either side of the fence, and that was it, right? It's just this scrubby, willowy snot. And no cover. And I think about a quarter mile that way towards the highway, there was one of these little, slowly nasty little slough, and it dumped into this little sunken pit with a few oak trees in it, and this tangled shit all around the base of it. And it just looked like absolutely nothing to me. Like I'm trying to picture one of these fabled 300 plus pound monster Alberta whitetails living here, and I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me, man. We're basically somebody in the neighborhood is what I was initially thinking. So he sits me down. And I flew out there too, I think. So I didn't even bother packing a rifle because it's too much of a pain in the ass in Canada. So I borrowed a 30-06. So I shoot left-handed, so I borrowed a right-handed 30-06 off Mark, and he had his dad's 303 British, old 303 British, right? So I'm sitting there, and he takes off and walks all the way back across the quarter section, I think, in the truck. Takes off. I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, I can see for miles. I'm like, there's no freaking deer here. This is stupid. But I can see a couple old prints in the dough. There's just a tiny bit of snow here and there. So I pull classic. I broke 2 cardinal rules. Number 1, I question my guide. For anybody in the planet, if you go on a guide at anything, the second you question your guide, you lose. That's rule number 1. And then rule number 2, I lost my patience. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I'm not sitting here. I was going to go back towards the highway there and maybe go look around one of these little circles of bush with a few oak trees in and see if there's any sign of rubs around there or something. I don't know. I just couldn't sit there anymore. It was stupid. And I walked about 300 yards back away, and I turned around, and just as I turned around to look at where I was sitting, about 6 whitetail went ripping right across in front of where I was sitting. I'm like, oops. So I go running back there, and I sat down, and then about 20 minutes later, Mark comes walking up. He goes, you see those deer? And I'm like, yeah, they went right in front of me. Phil, not even going to admit at that moment that how much of a dumbass I was. And they all went ripping across, over that wide open land, and they bailed into one of those little coulee things, little sunken chunk of terrain, which was probably about 200 long by maybe 100 wide, and they went down in that little hole. I'm like, hey, well, let's go down there and see if there's anything in there, right? Just go check it out. So we go down there, and I'm going through there, slipping through it, and I swore, something got busted out of there, and I could have swore I saw a big, massive rack on a buck, like a big buck. I'm like, holy shit, you gotta be kidding me. I swear I saw a hammer in there. I'm telling Mark, I knew I saw a hammer in there. So instead of blowing him out of there, we left. So we got a first light, went back to the same spot, went out to the corner of that fence, and Mark went up, and he went kitty corner to me on that quarter section, and he was going to sit up higher. The land sort of slightly rose up to the road, the old dirt road that we're on, farm road. Sitting there forever, nothing's happening. So I decided I was going to go walk the fence row to the north. The road went north and south. I was going to walk the fence to the north, but I was going to go wide away from that 10-foot wide swath of stuff. I was going to go wide from it to hopefully bust a deer out so it would run out straight across that open cultivated quarter section instead of running along the other side of the fence where we would see it, right? So instead of going straight along the fence, I'm going to walk out wide and then parallel the fence so if anything's in that thick stuff right there, they're going to bust out across that quarter section. So I go walking all the way down, and I could just see over top of that fence road towards the road a little bit the odd time. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anything. And I'm just slowly walking along. I'm looking everywhere, not seeing a thing. And then I get to the fence. I'm like, okay, well, that sucked. So I cross through the fence to walk back up to the road. And here's Mark. He was in his truck looking at me going, get over here, like freaking out, right? Freaking out, get over here. So he said that he was sitting up there, and sure enough, this hammer monster buck came busting out of that fence row right where I was, and he went diagonal, heading southwest from me. So I'm going north, this is my east, so that buck went southwest, quartering away. So I'm going that way, and that buck went full on, wide open quarter section, diagonal corner to corner. And Mark started ripping, too far to shoot, too fast, so he runs up to his truck, and he's jumps his truck, and he goes wailing down the road in his truck to cut this buck off to push it back to me from my direction. So he said the buck saw him coming, so he's ripping down the road, and the buck's going like this, saw him coming, they're literally having a race, and the buck jumped right across the road in front of his truck. He said if he hit it a little harder, he would have ran it over. And it jumped across the road, and then it went diving into his cousin's, their aunt's or whatever's farmhouse. So anyway, he gets me to jump in the truck. Come on. And he's all excited, telling me how big this thing was. And we go down, ripping down the road to the house, and it's a typical farmhouse. There's this white square farmhouse, swing set in the front yard. There's a dog barking on the porch. So, and there's a typical classic planted pine tree row around the immediate property of the house, okay? And there's a fence ripping out towards the back of the house, heading towards the sun, with just a little bit of scrub on your side of the fence. So we go up to the next quarter section, whip up in the gate, drives across the quarter section, and he stuffs me against the fence. I was probably 400 to the west of that house. Yeah, northwest of the house. And I'm sitting there, and he says, okay, now wait here. And I flipped his noodle, right? He's trying to tell me he's going to go park at his cousin's place, Anne's place, whatever it was, at that house, and he was going to bust this thing out of the yard. And it's going to come to me and to shoot it no matter what. So I'm kind of sitting there. This is the most bizarre, strange hunting experience for me at the time, because I've never done this before. I've never hunted whitetail ever before. I've always hunted mountains, remote, and jungle. So I see the truck go up front of the house, stop. I'm just sitting there. Oh, and the sun's in my face. So obviously I'm facing to the south, kind of southeastish. So I remember seeing the sun's kind of my face. It's just coming up. It's just coming up now. And all of a sudden I see something. I can see something dark. It's like going, dunk, 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 dunk. It's just like a typical whitetail trot. And it's coming up this fence row. So it's not coming straight at me. It's kind of coming on an angle, right? Because I'm about 40 yards out from the fence. And he's coming right up that fence line from my direction. So I get the scope up on it. And I'm like, holy shit. It's like a big buck. And, but I couldn't tell, I'm used to seeing, if it's a monster buck when you're hunting mule deer buck, I'm used to seeing a great big rack as compared to that body. I could field judge, no problem. But this thing, I'll tell you, you'll see why later, but it's hard for me to tell it was an absolute monster. I'm like, well, it looks like a big mature buck. And he's coming closer. And then I could tell it's a 5x5. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So, and I've never shot at a running animal in my life. I mean, all of my hunting's been in the thick jungle, right? I'll show you right here what I typically see before I pull the trigger. I mean, this is it for me, right? So I don't have any practice at shooting at greased lightning. I just don't. But I can shoot. But anyway, so I got this crosshairs in front of him, and I think I held just in front of his chest. And I'm aiming, I'm following him along, so I'm aiming, and I'm following him, following. I squeeze off, and the bullet hit him. I heard the bullet whack him. He didn't even flinch, and all of a sudden he kicks it into high gear. And the only way I can describe one of those Alberta whitetail ripping across that field is it's greased frickin' lightning. It's a brown streak of lightning. And that thing is still going the same direction. And he's doing, I could not believe how fast this thing was running. And flat out, it's just a straight flat out line. It's not boom, boom, boom like mule deer or blacktail do. It's just flat out frickin' going like a bullet. I'm like, holy shit. So I got the bullet on him. I'm jacking one in. It's a right-handed gun, so I'm jacking it like this, and I'm following him. Got it in front of his chest. Boom, whack. Here, whack again. I think I had 5 bullets total. I think I had 2 in my pocket or something. And he's not even slowing down. And then I get another one. I'm like, holy crap. And I'm holding in front of him. Boom, whack. And he's starting to slow down a bit. I had 4 bullets in and 2 in my pocket. And then he's slowing down. He's still going. And he's right up almost beside me now, and he's about 100 from me. Not even 100. And I shoot him again, and then he slows down quite a bit. I hear the bullet hit him, slows down. I've never had buck fever in my life. And then I'm digging in my pocket. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm digging in my pocket, and I'm jacking one in there, and up, boom. And then he sort of turns away from me and walks over and it disappears in this one little tiny patch of bush. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, my God. And all of a sudden, here comes Mark running up from the fence. And then he comes up to me, he goes, again? What's with all the shooting? Right? Because we're the ones that always complain about our hunters when they shoot a whole pile of times and miss. And I'm like, I don't know. I hit him every time. He wasn't falling over. And all of a sudden, we look over. There he is. And he got back up. And I had 1 bullet left, and he had a bullet, and we both lined up on the top of the fence post, and we both teed off the same time and dumped it. We both shot it right on the shoulder, and it still walked 4 or 5 paces, and then it fell over. None of those bullets knocked it over and knocked it down once. You couldn't even tell it was getting shot. It was so bizarre. So we walk up to this thing, and I was like, for me, I could not frickin' believe it. Because where I grew up, I think the heaviest buck I ever shot on the island, where I grew up here deer hunting, and I shot a pile of them there before I left. I think the biggest one I ever whacked was 152 pounds dressed out, okay? And that was a monster to me at that time. I shot a couple mule deer that were definitely over 300, but that was a different thing altogether. But we're standing there looking at this whitetail at our feet, and I am absolutely speechless. I'm like, are you frickin' kidding me? Look at the size of this thing. It was huge. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. Here's the picture of it right here. You know, like we're both 6 foot guys. At that time, yeah, I'm around 210 pounds, 6 foot. And you look at that deer. We didn't weigh it. I wish we did, but you tell me how heavy that thing is. It was unfreaking believable. I think the rack scored 167 or something like that. I think 167 or 66. And yeah, it was just pretty damn exciting. It was so exciting. It was just a big, heavy, old, gnarly, farm-fed, nasty-ass Alberta whitetail buck. And then that was it. After that moment right there, I was absolutely hooked. I'm like, oh my God, yes. And then we have some more stories after that from up in northern Alberta where we would go hunting after that. In his parents' new home up by the Saskatchewan River, I think, near Smith, Alberta. And then we went up there and we whacked a whole bunch of whitetails up there. And it's funny, you know, I shot a 155-inch 4x4, and I was all proud. And I remember taking it to a hunting store in Alberta on the way home, and when I talking to these guys, showed them, they're like, oh God, everybody's got one of those, you know. And then as we got to know more people around there, it was so bizarre. It's a tiny little farm community, but we went to, you know, Sunday dinners and stuff, and church and stuff, and started meeting people, and the locals that lived there, almost everybody had a 185 to 205 class whitetail on the wall in their farmhouse.